This is not. I can just use a handheld. Are these on? Good morning. Oh, good morning, everyone. I will invite you all, if you are still in the coffee line, please don't let me stop you. You are more than welcome to continue getting your refreshments, your beverages, and please, as you do so, make your way up to a seat, and let's go ahead and gather for the morning. If you were in the 9 o'clock service this morning, you heard me talk about the gift that we have before us today of this space and of this Dean's Hour. I have the absolute pleasure of introducing you all to Dain and Constance Perry, who have traveled from Boston to be with us this weekend. And they actually were here yesterday facilitating a discussion around a documentary called Traces of the Trade, which was a documentary that Dain's family got together and created, filmed over the course of some time, and then released in 2008, exploring and confronting head-on with courage and honesty their own family's complicity and participation in the buying and selling of human beings into slavery. That legacy of slavery lives on in our country today. We still live in a world in which there are systems that promote and that propagate racism in our world today. And so Dain and Constance have graciously come to be with us today to help keep that conversation going. They mentioned yesterday that since the film's release, they have been traveling all over the country for the last 20 years, screening this documentary and facilitating discussions. Couldn't have been that long, right? Yeah. But 600 times they have screened this documentary. It still is relevant today as it was 20 years ago. And we are just absolutely blessed to have them here with us. You all facilitated such a powerful conversation yesterday. It was honest, it was moving, and it was loving. For those of you who may have missed that, we plan to bring Dain and Constance back next year to do another screening of the film and to facilitate another dialogue. So if you didn't get a chance to come yesterday, never fear. You will have another opportunity. But until then, I'm so glad you're here with us this morning, whether you're here in this room or joining us online. Please join me in welcoming Dain and Constance Perry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. There we go. We're thrilled to be here, thrilled to be back in Houston. We've been down here several times. As I said yesterday, I went to the Red Sox-Yankee game last Tuesday night. It was 42 degrees. The wind chill factor was 36. I'm thrilled to be here.
And it's not just the warmth of the weather, it's the warmth of all of you.
Oh.
And and I mean that. I really sincerely mean that. It is, you're doing a lot of good, hard work here. And thank you for the compliments that you gave us for the facilitation. But it's the people who are in the room who trusted us enough and helped to create a safe environment and a brave environment so that you could share your emotions and your stories. That is why we come time and time again when we're invited. And it's the warmth that comes from you as well as the weather, and I'll take the weather. I'll take both.
And it was a remarkable conversation after the film. And that's why we continue doing this work, is the conversation after the film, the courage and the bravery of people getting up and telling their stories in the conversation that most white folks don't want to have, conversation about race and racism. And very often their participation in it or how it has affected them during their lives. It's such a critically important thing for us to be able to talk about, all of us, no matter what our skin color may be, because racism continues to be a cancer which eats away at the very soul of America, and we don't know what to do about it.
Let's find out how many people were here yesterday for the
Why
screening.
don't you ask them?
How many people, by a show of hands, were here yesterday?
And how many of you have
Great.
seen Traces of the Trade at some other time? Because we've shown it here other times, or some of you may have seen it on PBS. Good. So a fair number. It's a hard conversation. It's a hard conversation to have. I grew up as a racist kid in Charleston, South Carolina. I did some things I am not at all proud of. And it's important that those of us who are white, who have the kind of background that I have, be able to, if we can, get to the point where we're able to say that. Say, I did some things I shouldn't have done, and I'm not proud of it, and I wish I hadn't. But that's part of who I am, and that is part of who I am. And Constance accepts me, even though that is part of who I am. And that is part of our national healing.
If I can share a story that just, an experience that we had together. Dain and I, in the film, those of you who have seen the film, I didn't travel with Dain and his 9 cousins to Ghana and Cuba as they were grappling with learning the history that many of them didn't know. But a number of years later, Dain and his sister and I were invited to join a pilgrimage to Ghana while I sat on the board of Episcopal Relief and Development. It is the relief and development arm of the Episcopal Church. And we went to one of the slave forts where there is a door of no return. And for those of you who have not seen the film, it's a narrow door with an iron gate that Africans, it's narrow enough that one person passes through. And it's referred to as the door of no return because you walk out the door, but you don't come back. Because I was serving as Vice President of Episcopal Relief and Development, I was invited to lay a wreath at the door. And I invited Dain to stand on one side of me as I did that, and my sister-in-law, my sister, to stand on the other side. And as I looked out at the water, thinking about my ancestors who may have passed through that door, that I did come back. And there was a moment of recognition that I came back with people who were part of the slave trade. And there was a moment for me, I think, of forgiveness, of reconciliation. And so that's why I share my life with this man.
It's a deeply, deeply complicated, complex issue that is very difficult to wrap our minds around. And as a result, we prefer not to talk about it. But we understand that there is going to be a real effort here at the cathedral to have conversations over the course of the next year about race, about racism, about its impact on us. We understand that you have already had a session of, help me with it, sacred ground that a number of you have participated in.
How many of you have participated in that, Sacred Ground? Yeah.
A powerful several-week program that really delves in deeply into the issues of the many forms of racism that exist, and open our eyes to what racism is and what it does to people. What it does to people on the receiving end, and what it does to the people who are the racists. And so many of us can be racist, do racist things no matter what color we are. It's not just white folks.
Should we invite someone who attended Sacred Ground to say a little bit about what the experience was like, and maybe name one thing that you learned as a result of it? I know there's one brave person in this safe environment that we've created. This is not a test. Go ahead. Bring the mic to you.
It was an incredible experience, but I had tried to participate in a similar conversation at a church we went to in Chicago, and it just didn't quite work. But what we had, we were all white in that group, and what we had were people who could speak freely and not apologize to the minority person in the group about what they did, because that gets in the way of open communication. This is what I did. This is what I saw. I had a black nanny and I left her, and yet we treated her as if she wasn't part of the family. Or, I had a best friend that my personal experience was I had a very close friend that asked me to go out on a date with him, and I knew I couldn't, not because of my personal racism, but because of the way my family would react to it. And, racism, in my opinion, is something you have to heal from. It's like any kind of trauma. I believe it's trauma-based, even for the people who practice it. And after my husband and I were married, and after we had our first child, we started taking in foster children. And 3 of them were African American. And that was the most healing experience that I've ever had, because you cannot love somebody and not love who they are.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We also heard yesterday that not only have you offered Sacred Ground, but many of you have been involved in a number of different events that are helping you to learn about, have conversations about issues around race that you otherwise would not. And you've been doing a lot of work here. And it's a journey, right? Is it a journey of learning? Yeah.
And it's a journey which never ends. I've been on the journey for my entire life and will be for the rest of my life. As I said yesterday, I continue to say things that slip out that I should not say. And there's someone in my life who reminds me that I should not say it or do it, and she either kicks me in the shins or does something else to remind me that, what the heck are you saying? And how could those words leave your mouth? But they're back here somewhere and they come out. And it shocks me and it shocks Constance even more. So it's hard to stop it sometimes. I'd like to share with you one of what I feel are the important learnings that I've had as I've been on this remarkable journey. And that is, I've come to learn, or come to, I think, understand that there really are two different worlds in America. There's the white world and there's the black world. But not just the black world, the world of any people of color. And we don't know how to talk to each other. We are afraid of each other. We don't understand each other. And we don't know what to do about it. And I think the way we have gotten stuck there like that is because we have different life experiences. And because we have different life experiences, we have different worldviews. And because we have different worldviews, so often when we try to communicate with each other, the communication goes like this. People of color must understand the white worldview in order to survive. But those of us who are white don't have to give a nanosecond of thought to the worldview of people of color. And as a result, we don't. And I think that's one of the critical factors that goes on in terms of what keeps that gap going on between us. And if we spend the time learning and reading and talking, and learning and reading and talking, and being curious, and taking risks, and learning and reading and talking, then we can eventually begin to understand some of the things that we have absolutely no idea about. I said yesterday, we white folks just simply don't know what we don't know. And until we begin to know and understand what we don't know, things aren't going to change. We've got to care enough. We've got to care enough to want to know what we don't know. And once that happens, then things can begin to change. And what the Episcopal Church is doing around the country with programs like Sacred Ground, with us showing the film over 600 times all across the country, and other cousins have shown it many, many, many times also. That kind of work is getting people to dig and dig deeply.
And I would also include in that list the work that the Episcopal Health Foundation is doing. One of the things that over the years, Dain and I have been invited to, I don't know, countless number of, what percentage have you said that we've probably shown the film in the Episcopal Church? About 30? About 30 or 40% of the screenings. And many times we're invited back. Dain and I, it's just the two of us doing this. We don't have a website. It's all word of mouth. Someone will come to a screening and they'll come up to us afterwards and say, can you come to my place of worship? Can you come to where I work? Can you come to where my child goes to school? Sure, we'll go anywhere. But we don't have the organizational grounding staff, it's just the two of us, as I said, to do follow-up until Episcopal Health Foundation, where we come in after they have begun to lay the groundwork, right? Many of you, I see some heads nodding, because you've been working with them over time. And then we come in and do our work. But it doesn't stop there. There are opportunities to follow up, and the foundation is here to help you do that. To help you do that. And it really matters because it means that the work that you are doing can continue over time with the support that you need over time, where you can see progress and you can see that you're making a difference. That is a huge piece of the importance. We all do. We need to have a foundation, and we need to have the support to reinforce the work we're doing. And the Episcopal Health Foundation does that. So Dain told you a little bit about himself. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Boston. I was raised by my parents, separated and divorced when I was very young. I'm the oldest of three. And I was raised by my father and his mother from the time I was 7. My grandmother was part of the great migration of African Americans who came from the South to various parts of the country, and her oldest sister lived in Boston at the time, so she came there. I don't know how she instilled in me. I had a conversation with someone a little bit ago. I don't know how she instilled in me a sense of pride and courage and dignity. Wherever I am is where I belong. Hold your head up high, your shoulders back, and you look people in the eye when you talk to them. I had an experience, I won't tell you where, some time ago when I was doing consulting work in a state that was far south of Massachusetts. My colleague and I, who was white, is white, asked people in the community where we should go for dinner that evening. And they said, oh, you have to go to, and I'm not going to name the restaurant. Everybody goes there. People from all over the state and the country go to this restaurant. So we said, great, we went. And I always, when I'm walking in the door, I look around, I see who's there. And I saw one black person who was clearing the tables. We sat down, we ordered our meal, and she was sitting across from me. And each time I looked up to engage in conversation with her, we had to debrief from the day. There was a table of 5 men who were all white. And one man in particular was looking at me. And I talk to people, I smile, and I started to smile. And something stopped me because that look on his face was not a look I was at all familiar with. And it didn't seem very friendly. And I looked down and I said something to my colleague. And she said, well, just ignore him. But every time I looked up to say something to her, I could see him looking at me. Fast forward, 2 days later, Dain and I were with a bishop and a priest driving out of the state to do another screening of Traces of the Trade. And I told him of the experience. And he said, oh, my dear, that look was a look telling you you did not belong there. You did not belong. You were being uppity. For a week, when I came home, my shoulders were slumped, my head was down. I was afraid to look at any person who was white because I didn't want to have that look again that I had never experienced. Why am I telling you that story? Because I realized something that I had not fully understood. I had heard people say that black person has a chip on his or her shoulder. Have any of you heard that? Yeah. And I never understood that. And I realized if I had spent my life living in the environment that so many of my African American brothers and sisters lived, that maybe I would have a chip on my shoulder too. And when we talk about privilege, I have the privilege of not having had to experience that. That's what so many people carry. And that's when we gather and we tell our stories about our lived experiences with regard to race. It isn't intended to shame or blame people who are white. It's just so that maybe you will understand a little bit more. And it goes the other way too. That we need to understand you as well.
And Constance, Constance, I'll use the word suffered. I hate to use that. But suffered from something that is known as multigenerational trauma, which is something that is handed down in the African American community as a result of slavery. The trauma of slavery is handed down in the African American community very subtly. And she very, very rarely exhibits it. But that hit her at that restaurant when that man looked at her the way that he did. And this strong woman, this remarkably strong woman, just,
Now, we've got 5 minutes left. I did. We've got 5 minutes left because we're going to worship with you shortly. I would like to share what I will leave here with when we leave a few hours and head down the road or up the road or up the road to Round Rock. I am leaving here with a sense of hope. And every time Dain and I are in Texas working with people like you through the help of Episcopal Relief and Development, Episcopal Health Foundation, whoops. I leave here with a sense of hope because of people like you who are doing the hard work. And there's a lot more to do, as Dain said, learning and listening and talking and learning and the cycle. It's a journey, and I don't know when it ever ends. But many people, when we say, oh, okay, where are you going? We're going back to Texas. Really? Why do you want to go there? And we tell them why. We tell them why. Because it's people like you who are all over Texas doing the hard work of listening and learning and understanding and reconciling and healing. And so I thank you. I thank you.
That's a good end. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all again so much for being here. We do have a couple of minutes left, and so I would like to take the opportunity to introduce you to Eric Moen, who is the Director of Community Engagement for Episcopal Health Foundation. We were able to host our screening of yesterday's film with the Perrys because of EHF's partnership. They sponsored the event. And so I'd like to give Eric just a couple of minutes to come and share with us.
Thank you, Liz, so much. We're going to bring them back in a year. So for the last 9 years at the foundation, we've been bringing the Perrys to Texas, and they have presented and led this dialogue with around 40 congregations across our diocese. And it has been in every corner, from corner to corner, side to side, in every size congregation, they've led these conversations. And so as we do this work, know that we are not alone. The Episcopal Diocese of Texas is uniquely positioned and has a vision. Bishop Doyle has a vision for this work. The foundation is contributing a part of that work, but there is a diocesan-wide effort around this race work that we are all a part of. And so as you continue to be on this journey, you have the support of the Health Foundation, and you have the support of your bishop, and you have the support of the diocesan staff, and you have the support of all the other Episcopal congregations of this diocese. You are not alone. We are not alone in this work. The important part is exactly what Dain and Constance spoke to today, which is we have to keep doing this work. We have to keep having these conversations. And as predominantly white congregations, we have to keep doing our homework. And we have to keep the conversations going. So on behalf of the Episcopal Health Foundation, I thank you for your hospitality. We will be back, and we will support your ongoing efforts as well. So we have other initiatives, we have other consultants and programs that we can offer, and other resources, and so we look forward to being on this journey with you. Race impacts our health. That is the big reason why the Health Foundation does this work. Racism impacts health, the health of the community, the health of everybody in that community. So we are positioned to do this work. It is a priority for us, and I thank you for your time. And I thank the Perrys for always being here and always doing this work. When we were asked to do this work, they were my first call. They were the first people I called to say, okay, what do we need to do? How do we do this? And they have been on this journey with us nonstop for the past 9 years. Thank you all so much. That's our time, right? It's time to go to church?
It is time to go to church, but we can allow a few minutes for questions. If anybody has a question, there's probably a time for one or two. And if you do have a question, just raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over so those in the room can hear.
Hello, Jim Hedges here. I came from a family that had a not a lot of experience dealing with members of the Black community, but it wasn't until I started doing my genealogy that all of a sudden it came right in front of me, where I saw that members of the Black community were deeded to the siblings or the children of the deceased member of the family. And that really struck me when you realize that part of your ancestry was involved in the trade. And I can't help but say it's a very strong wake-up call for anybody, and I encourage you to look back and take a look, see.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, this is a comment. I think your work is so important. Just this last week in the newspaper, there was a report that one of our, and I believe she's Hispanic, police officers went on some social media place and spouted out all this racist stuff. And thank goodness she has been relieved of duty.
As Dain said, it's not just this story, the story that you sat through yesterday, is the story of white family and African Americans, but it's all people of color. It's about all of us. It's about people who are white, it's about African Americans, it's about Latinos, it's about all of us, regardless of the color of your skin. Got. Yep. Why don't you try this?
I didn't see your film yesterday, but is there anything you recommend as a first step towards healing? Do you have any suggestions on certain steps people can take besides the listening and learning and talking?
There's no shortcut. It's a journey. And I think that when someone is hurting, they hear something that causes them pain, and they want to do something. The tendency is, what can I do? But you don't know enough. Listening, learning, reading, over and over and over again, and there will come a time when you will know what to do. But the healing takes time. It takes trust, building relationship. There's no short circuit.
Seeing more films, setting up a film group here, setting up a book reading group here would be very worthwhile. Lots of books, lots of films. There's a superb film that HBO did called Something the Lord Made, which is powerful and staggering. Something the Lord Made. I see someone about to make a note there. Something the Lord Made. Wonderful film. And it involves, I believe, a doctor who was down here in Houston ultimately.
Would you join me again in thanking the Perrys for being here?
Thank you.
If you have already worshiped with us this morning, go in peace to love and serve the Lord. And if you are heading into church with us this morning, I'll see you in there.